This video is about how to do Final Project Part 1 in Finale. Download the template. Begin by composing a drum groove for your A section. Make sure that you're in the simple entry menu by hitting the note, one of the notes. If you don't see both of these palettes, get them from the window menu. You need to use 16th notes, so grab some 16th notes and create a nice 16th note hi-hat pattern. Use mainly closed hi-hats. You can put some open hi-hats if you like. I put in constant 16ths. I may change that later. And I'm going to make the last hi-hat open by just hitting the down arrow. It's closed. Sorry, the up arrow to make it open. Then I'm going to grab my articulation tool here and click on it and just put the letter C and click, and that will create, sorry, that's for closed. Do the letter O and click, and that'll so open. And up here I'm going to put letter C and click for closed. There we go. Notice that I put my snare on 2 and 4. Now it's time to change to layer 2 because we're going to do the kick drum. Decide on your kick drum pattern. Sing yourself a rhythm that's kind of cool and funky, something that you'd like to work with, your basic rhythm, and then put that in as a kick drum. I'm going to go dot, da da dot, dot, da da dot. I've put in my rhythm. A reminder, when you put in rhythms, you can create different, you can get different note values if you set up your simple entry options correctly by hitting the numbers. 7 is a whole note, 6 is a half note, 5 is a quarter note, 4 is an eighth note, 3 is a 16th note. Then when you're on the note, you just arrow across to choose different notes. Now here I want to have a rest, so I'm going to hit, I've selected that quarter note, I'm going to hit R, turn it into a rest. Okay, now I've got my groove. Oh, also I'm going to make this into a rest. So I've selected that note, I hit R, and now I have the groove that I sang earlier. Here's my groove. Now it's time to copy it. Command C, just like in a word processor. Command V, paste. Command C, Command V, Command V, and I just do that to give me 8 measures of my groove. Now I do the same thing, a different groove over here in the B section. Different groove, contrasting groove. Okay, once I've done my 2 grooves, I now put in a bass, placeholder bass line. This is because we don't know what our chords are yet, so we don't know what notes to emphasize, so I'm just going to put in a rhythm that goes with the bass line. So say I decide to go dun, 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 ba ba dum, ba dum bum. I'm just going to put that all in on one note. First of all, don't forget to switch back to layer 1. Everything else except the kick drum is in layer 1. Okay, I've put in my bass note, emphasized notes on the letter C, and then I've decided to put in a little approach tone pattern here, so I just represented that with the notes A and B, but I may change those depending on what my chords are. So I have this now. Okay, now I can cut and paste that, and I'll change the pitches later once I know what my chords are. There it is, over 8 measures. At this point you would do the same process but for your B section, but you're going to have a contrasting groove there, and therefore a contrasting bass line. Then stage 4 rather, is to decide on your keys. So it's time for a key. Let's say we're going to make this in D major. You select your 8 measures by selecting the first measure and the last measure by selecting Shift and click. You go to your key signature tool, which is there. You double click. You move up if you're going towards a sharp key and down if you're going towards a flat key. We're going towards D major, so that's a sharp key. We're going to go up, click and hold, click and drag to D major. See how it says measure 1 through 8? That's what you want. It'll probably change the pitch of the notes up. That's okay. Hit OK on your dialog box. And there it is. Now it's in the key of D. It won't affect the drums. Then you do the same thing for your B section, get that in the right key. It's either going to be in relative minor, B minor, or in the parallel minor, D minor. Get your key signature all set up for that, doing the same thing you did before. Time to compose your chord sequence. You're going to use diatonic chords, and you can use seventh chords. I encourage you to use at least some seventh chords. And the only chord you're not going to use is any kind of diminished chord in the major key. You can use 2 minor 7 flat 5 in a minor key. I've decided to use similar chords to those that were in the song What's Going On that we looked at. So I choose my chord tool. There it is. And I'm in the key of D, so my 1 major 7 is going to be a D major 7. I put that in D, M, A, J, 7, hit return. And if it doesn't show up in the library, you just say yes. And then you hit OK, and there it is. Then I'm going to have it go to the 6 minor there. So I'm going to go to B minor 7, B minus sign 7, hit return. Then back to D. I'm going to have it alternate. Now that I've got my chords, and now I'm going to voice lead them. So I'm going to choose, just for now, a very simple rhythm. We'll make it more rhythmic later. Just put in whole notes. And remember, a good area to create your voicings is down in the lower part of the treble clef, going into some ledger lines below the treble clef. If you have trouble remembering all the notes there, you could do them up higher and then move them down an octave. Okay, I've done my D major 7 voicing. I did have root position B minor 7, but I can do better voice leading, so I'm going to move this A down an octave. Shortcut for that is Shift arrow down. Now I've got good voice leading, common tones, etc. Okay, now I've got my chords in place. Now I have to adapt my bass line to work with my chosen chords. Remember, the root should always be stated first. Then, if you want to, you can continue to use a lot of roots, but other alternative notes are fifths and sevenths, and of course, approach tones. Okay, I've decided to state more roots here, and then don't forget that your approach notes have to approach not a D at this point, but a B. So come down, do something like this, maybe make a double chromatic approach, and there's my B. Now I do a similar pattern. Previously I had root, fifth, root, root. I'm going to do that here. Fifth, root, sorry. Fifth, root, root, and then approach to my D, which will be those notes. We'll make a good approach to the D. And now I've got a groove. Now you've got everything except your melody. It's time to write your melody. Come up with a motive that you like, and remember to leave some space. Good melodies are not usually very notey melodies. They have a lot of space. They have room to breathe. One way to come up with a motive is to just play your groove and sing along to it until you come up with something you like. Another way would be to just think of a rhythm that you think fits well with your groove. Like this is going da, 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 da. So you might have something that goes like da, 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 or something like that. Da, 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 something like that. Okay, here's a little motive I came up with. Now notice that I am actually using non-chord tones in my melody. That's actually a good thing. That can be really nice and colorful. Those are called tensions. As long as the long duration notes are a whole step above a chord tone, they're going to sound good. This note E is a whole step above D, therefore it's going to work well. This note C sharp is a whole step above B, it's going to work well. This is what we have so far. That's my basic motive. So I threw together a little melody based on a single motive. Notice that I've used some syncopation. That's always good. So instead of always having things land right on beat 1, you have some things coming and the 16th note before 1 tied over. Things like that will help your melody. Here's what it sounds like. It's not the greatest melody in the world, but at least it sounds coherent and it uses a motive. So you will write something that may sound really different from that, but as long as it has a motive or two and there's a feeling of call and response, it should be fine. At that point, you've finished your, if you do that for your A section and your B section, you've finished part one of the final project, and then a separate video and separate set of instructions will tell you how to complete it. Stage two, but stage two is basically putting your music into a sequencer and then doing your handwritten chart.